Hello and welcome back to the Secret Lair MTG Arena Weekly Podcast. My name is Daniel Guajardo, and I'm here with
Walsh.
Hey Walsh. How's it going?
It's going all right. Life's getting a little hectic, but
Yeah.
things are doing all right.
All right. So we got some cool new cards up here that are not actually cards. They're just digital images that we can't buy. But
Here we go.
let's talk about Alchemy.
All right, we touched on it a little bit last week, but this week we're going to get a little bit more into the meat of what exactly is going on with Alchemy because we're better informed due to just play experience. So we're going to start off with the cards that have been rebalanced, quotes, for standard via Alchemy. And this is the full 11 cards that we see that they have changed. A few of them got buffed. Most of them got nerfed. Let's start from left to right, and we'll go over it kind of quick because these, to be honest, are kind of the boring cards as far as I'm concerned anymore. But
yeah,
Wizards class got a buff, I believe. I feel so unprepared as far as this one because the card was.
Who played this?
I don't know why Wizard class and Druid class got buffs.
Huh.
Because I still don't think they're anywhere in the realm of constructed playable.
Yeah, they still don't even look that great.
Yeah, they're really not appealing to begin with. I'm not sure why they got the buffs. There's a handful of other cards that got buffed, but most of them got nerfed. So Wizard class got a buff. And Druid class got a buff.
Yeah. And then Demolich.
Demolich got a buff. It went from 3 toughness to 4 toughness. Cosmos Elixir got a buff with the it gains 2 life and you scry 1. And Phylath technically got a buff because it does exactly everything it did before, but it also gives the token trample.
Oh, okay. That could be useful, I guess. Seems
I suppose
they were like really just looking for something that like needed to like we got to make some things better. We made some things worse.
We're gonna sort these into air quotes buffs files and nerfs files. If you look to the nerfs files, you will immediately notice all of the cards that were basically staples in standard. Short of Omnath, who is back from the party.
Oh, is he back? We can play him again?
Yeah, you can play Omnath again.
Oh, sweet. Wait, what did they change though?
You can't draw a card anymore when he enters the battlefield. Now you scry 1. Other than that, exact same tech box, plus he costs 1 more.
Oh, well.
So he's a 5-drop. Yeah, way lackluster now. Card is very much less impressive than it was.
Well, yeah, especially with Lotus Cobra in the format.
Yeah. And so we'll start with Aspirant and then we'll work our way to Omni Boy here in a second.
One favor. Go over Wizard class real quick. Let me pull that up again because I pulled it up here on my screen. You guys can't see it, but if you listen to this audio, you can't see it anyway. So Wizard class is you have no maximum hand size, and that's the exact same. Your level 2 cost a blue and 2 other, and when it becomes level 2, you draw 2 cards. That's the exact same. Level 3 is what they changed. It used to cost 4 colorless and 1 blue. It now costs 2 colorless and 1 blue to get to that 3rd class.
Awesome.
I see.
Made almost no difference.
Yeah, I was looking. I had to like read every word to see what actually changed. But okay, yeah, all right, cool. Sorry about that. I was curious there.
I mean, do you have the other ones up? Because I would definitely like to figure out what also they changed on Druid class. Because
yeah, I guarantee.
I think it's also the level 3.
Yeah, I think well, those level 3s were really like they're pretty big, but I just never saw this card getting play outside of like draft or limited anyway. So you didn't matter if it cost. Yep, same thing. Reduced it by 2 colorless.
To be honest, these cards weren't even that playable in the limited format.
The blue one was. Wizard class was.
Yeah, the blue one is all right, but we're talking about the format where it was just you want to be in the red-black treasure deck.
That's true. Yeah, no. So yeah, just reduce this one by 2 as well.
So my initial thoughts, obviously they are just starting out with the buffs and nerfs. So they wanted to tiptoe a little bit, but like none of these buffs are going to make any difference
They
in
didn't tiptoe
standard
with the
at
nerfs.
all. The nerfs, no, they completely crushed a lot of these cards.
Yeah.
They put them into unplayable mode pretty much. Let's get into it. Luminarch Aspirant. What did they change? It used to do it pre-combat, now it does it at the end of your turn.
Uh-huh. Doesn't seem like it
So
make a big difference. It's huge.
it's massive. This card went from being a staple but not too powerful. It was perfectly balanced, and it was balanced in that it wasn't overly over the top. It was good, but now this card is next to unplayable. Like they stole a 2-drop, and this is I'm going to get a little ranty here. They stole a 2-drop that was good out of the white decks, and white has notoriously been bad with having any playability. And this is finally this point where like white is somewhat decent.
Yeah.
Up to the point where it was like one of the top 3 contenders in standard, and then they nerfed a card out of the deck. They nerfed a pivotal card out of the deck because the deck needs early drops to compete. Like you're a hard aggressive deck, and they nerfed it for no reason. There was no reason to touch this card. I don't think there was any reason to touch white. It wasn't like it was dominating the format. It feels like they just changed a bunch of cards, not to rebalance, but to get people to play other decks. Yeah, it might keep the format fresh, but there was no point in nerfing this. Like
they've done that before though. They've banned cards just because they didn't want certain decks to be played. Like when they did the multiple bans, like the Emrakul, Reflector Mage.
well, no, those cards were all warranted. Emrakul was
Copter.
warranted. That card was busted. Copter was busted. Like I don't see the reason to rebalance Luminarch Aspirant.
Sure. Well, they preempt. I'm just saying they preemptively banned Reflector Mage though because they're like, well, everyone would have just went to blue white, so
Yep.
we'll ban this, and everyone went to blue white anyway. I think if I remember correctly, because you saw Gideon and Avison, but
preemptive bans in a live format don't make any sense.
no.
Like you can let the players play it out, and then if it gets bad, you can just adjust it. I don't see why adjusting it ahead of time makes any difference. If that's the case, they haven't made a public statement on why they adjusted Luminarch Aspirant, so I'm really not sure. The thing that irks me the most is that because Historic is also a live format, the Green White Humans deck, which was a heavily played deck in Historic, now loses this 2-drop because this card is completely unplayable in Historic. It's far too slow and doesn't do anything. True. And then they Pleasant Kenobi went on a rant earlier this week, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Like, you want to rebalance formats? That's great. That's really good for digital Magic. I agree that is a step we need to take.
Yeah.
But taking these aspirants, nerfing them, and then not giving players wild cards is outrageous. It costs them no money to do that.
Well, they didn't get wild. We don't get wild cards for the nerf cards.
No, you don't get wild cards for the nerf cards because they're in a live format and they're technically still playable. So the changes are permanent and you don't get anything for it.
Huh. Nice.
I
nice
feel
wizards.
like that the best step, like, and a step that I think is going to come up because this rant continually comes up across a lot of the media outlets as far as people producing content. It's like, look, we are all for changing cards, rebalancing standard, keeping it fresh. That is great because standard gets solved super fast, and like keeping the format fresh until a whole new set comes out or some other arena-based expansion via historical or whatnot. That is awesome for digital Magic, and I'm 100% behind it.
Yep.
I am behind balancing cards. I am not behind people crafting cards for these decks and then you changing them to the point where they're unplayable and now they're back to square one.
Is that not what killed Hearthstone when they like banned that dragon thing that was like crazy hard to get? And people were just like nonstop cracking packs trying to get it, and then they're just like ban.
In Hearthstone?
Yeah.
No, Hearthstone isn't like that at all. You can Hearthstone has a dusting system, which is something else Magic desperately needs as far as arena.
It's like the same though. Like you get rid of things, you turn them into something else to try to get other packs or other cards, right?
Yes, you can do that. So you can craft whatever you want. And also in Hearthstone, if anything gets rebalanced or changed, you can either turn that into equivalent dust of what that card would be. So basically, in arena terms, it would be you could turn that card into, let's say, Goldspan gets nerfed. Mm-hmm. You could dust Goldspan for a mythic wild card. There was a window you could do that. Or if they change it, they would just give you the dust that you would need to craft something else. So like they understood.
I thought it was still that you had to like crack packs to get certain things. Maybe this is a long time ago.
You can open packs in Hearthstone still, but they have an economy where you can get rid of stuff you're not going to use.
Were you able
So
to
like,
pick a specific card though that you needed for your deck? Like if you had
yeah,
enough dust?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, you could build up dust and build whatever you want. And then if you didn't want to play with that, granted, you're taking a loss on the dust. So like when you dust a card, you're getting like, I believe it was a quarter to half of what the card technically would be worth as far as crafting. So if it cost you 1,600 dust to craft a legendary, you
Mhm.
would get, when you dusted the legendary, you would get 400 dust.
Oh, okay.
But you had that leeway where you could get rid of the stuff that you weren't using anymore to craft more things.
Yeah.
Arena doesn't have that. Arena has buy packs, and that's it.
Well, no, if you open things that you have your playset, they give you the little stuff that equals our chests, but it's probably not even a fourth of.
Yeah, it's tragically undervalued. 40 gems for a mythic and 20 for a rare
Yeah.
of things you already own, but like that's nowhere near as good. That's
No,
not even
no.
close.
It's something though. It's like Starbucks, you get a few points here and there, and finally one day you get a coffee.
Yeah, I guess. Buy 100 cups, your
Yeah.
101st is 50% off.
I've been coming here for months just to get this coffee. Spent $800 on that. Congratulations.
All right. Beyond that rant, the other
Next.
changes that happen to these cards are Seeker's Chariot no
Mhm.
longer makes 2 cats when it comes in, it only makes the 1. And its crew cost is down by 2 instead of at 4, it's 2. So it's like kind of half. I still don't. This card might be fine. I think Chariot got moved into the we hit it right on the head, we hit it right. As far as I think this balance is not too far gone on either way, and I think this card feels fine.
Yeah, and it
Whereas
matches the
Aspirant
art
feels
now.
like it just
Like Asika was in the chariot. She wasn't going to be making herself. Like,
I mean, you're talking about the other art. I mean, this art doesn't make sense because there's 2 cats on the picture and there's only 1 cat token.
no, it's always made sense. Asika is in the chariot. She wasn't one of the 2 cats. She was still the chariot.
There is a
Like,
cat in the chariot, dude.
that's Asika. Are you saying that she jumped out of the chariot and those are your
Well,
tokens? She's
it's
one of
just
the
her
2.
chariot. This has nothing to do with the Sika.
Who's that guy behind her though? I don't really like the way he's looking at her.
Dude, you had a root canal today, right?
Yeah,
I feel like
a little tired.
that's still wearing off.
Yeah, my mouth is still a little numb. Sorry if I talk weird or say something weird. But no, I guess sure. She hops out the chariot. I always thought she was too good for that. So I thought the 2 cats were kind of like her crew that protected Asika.
Moving on.
I look at Arena all day long. I gotta think of something.
All right, the next one is Goldspan Dragon. For the most part, it's the exact same card as it was before, except they remove the line of text that says whenever it's targeted, you make a treasure.
It's a big line.
Why is that big? Mostly because the Jeskai Mutate deck no longer works the way it did before.
Doesn't go in. Yeah.
You can't go infinite. That doesn't mean Goldspan's unplayable, but I think it falls below the line of balance. I don't think this card, like, this is not a mythic level card by any means anymore.
Because that's how it protected itself a lot too. Like you could safely play it on 5, knowing that if you had something, you were going to get 2 mana.
Yeah, I think this falls under the same guys as Luminarch Aspirant. They nerfed it to unplayable.
Oh, it's a 4/4 with haste, but 5.
It's a 4/4 flying haste for 5. There are 4/4 hasters for 4 mana because it's essentially what this is. This is a questing beast. Only less text, more expensive. It doesn't have any of the bonuses.
It really costs 4 as long as they don't kill it at instant speed, because it is returning a treasure with 2 mana. So it really costs 3 as long as it's not killed at instant speed. But yeah, that was the whole reason that the targeting thing was so great. Huh. Yeah, I think you're right though. I think this has definitely fallen.
And this one, Alrin's Epiphany. This was the biggest one that everybody kind of, and when I say everybody, I don't mean everybody, but you know what I
mean. Yeah.
This card had to be adjusted, but I think they adjusted it. This falls under the same guys as Aspirant and Goldspan Dragon. This card is no longer playable. You don't gain any advantage The only advantage you gain from foretelling this is that you get 2 birds. That's it. You don't get it for cheaper. It costs the same to cast this. Whether or not you're foretelling it, the birds are the bonus. That's it.
Yeah, they needed to do one of the two, and like they needed to, the birds stay the same or the casting cost stay the same. By changing both of them, it just there's no foretell anymore.
Yeah, this card doesn't have foretell. Well, I guess because of the birds, but it's just not what it was before. They basically they made it cost more to kind of shut off the iteration combo that goes with it. So when you're copying with iteration, now you're only getting 2 birds, and you have to dedicate another mana for it. So it's 1 turn slower, which in the current format, that extra turn is actually going to kind of punish you.
Yeah, 2 birds with 2 stones. It's not a saying. It's not a thing.
Yeah. You really just wanted to say that, didn't you?
Well, I don't get the opportunity often.
Yeah, it's fair. Not very many birds.
Yeah, so I thought this card was cool. Any card that says take an extra turn, I immediately try to like look at it for way longer than I should to see if it's cool.
I mean, taking extra turns in Magic is really powerful.
Yeah, and every once in a while, the Nexus of Fate, the format.
Every once in a while. Well, I mean, historically, the taking extra turns cards have all been pretty OP.
Sure. Well, Battle for Zendikar and Cons, like those ones, they just flopped. Like they went straight to Commander turns decks. They were good cards, but didn't do anything to Standard. So Nexus was the first one in quite a while, actually, that really kind of like changed the game.
We're not gonna get into the error of Nexus of Fate.
It was such a good time.
I don't think it was. It's like a band. It was in the same realm as Allred's Epiphany, only it was even harder to interact with than Epiphany.
Yeah, but where everyone's like, "Oh, I hate the format. It's only 1 deck." I kind of like it as long as it's not too long like that. If it's like 4 weeks or something, where I'm just like,
that's what Alchemy solves. That's the plus in Alchemy's positive column is that Alchemy we won't have to sit with a rancid format for weeks. It'll keep people wanting to play because they can rebalance cards on the fly.
Yeah.
The rebalance cards, it doesn't just mean that they're only going to rebalance cards a month after a set comes out. They could, because they're live formats, they could just do that whenever.
That's going to be, I don't think I like that though either. Because especially if they're not giving you replacement cards like that you're crafting and they're just making all your cards you crafted worse.
Look, I didn't say it was all positive. I'm not a fan of the way it works in the economy. I am a fan of keeping the format fresh to make people want to play Standard.
Craft Evolving Wilds all day if that's the point. Like,
yeah. The next nerf on our list of nerfs here is Faceless Haven. The only change, they make it a 3/3 instead of a 4/3.
I think this is fine.
I'm undecided on whether or not something definitely had to be done. So I think this falls in the camp of Chariot because I don't feel like it makes this card unplayable. I still think a 3/3 that you activate for 3 is good. Monocolored aggro decks are still going to play this card. I don't think the change in toughness changes all that much. It reduces your clock a little bit, but I think it makes this card more manageable to deal with.
Yeah, so, I think that was the problem is like you could almost always reliably get someone down to 4 and then they couldn't do anything because you had this just waiting.
Yeah,
it gives them one more turn, I think.
I'm for the Faceless Haven change. It's still playable. Like, it's definitely going to be a fine line when they rebalance these cards.
So how do you feel about, I was thinking instead of doing that, don't give it vigilance so you can't cast an extra spell after your attack step if it just gets through.
I mean, I think that'll push it into unplayable at that point.
No, I mean, if you left it a 4/3 and didn't give it vigilance.
I mean, that's definitely a line they could have taken. But I like having the added versatility of being able to use it. Just gives you a little bit more play with it, which I think is better.
I agree. I think it's still a better card this way. I'm just wondering if, they could have taken that route and would we have liked that better? But I think it's this is the good way.
Yeah, I think if Faceless Haven and Secret Chariot fall in the same guise of these cards are good. Now we kind of touched on Omnath before. Let's just go over it again one more time. They made him cost 1 more and you don't draw a card when he comes into play. I think the verdict is still out on this one, but I'm definitely leaning towards this card. I don't want it to be anywhere near as good as it was, but I think
It's so good.
It's fine.
In the right deck, I think it's going to be good.
It's fine in the right deck, but I don't think this card scares me the way it used to. But I mean, that's
Wait,
kind of the whole point.
it came down on turn 3 and replaced itself, and then after that, didn't really care.
To be fair, when people were playing Omnath, there was a whole nother block of cards in play.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
See,
I'm all for Omnath coming back, but I don't know how I feel about these changes. This card is this probably falls in the Haven Chariot line, leaning more towards not being format defining.
yeah, but is
But
it enough to
also,
build a
like,
deck around?
I don't know. I want to say maybe, which is just the grayest I could thought I could come up with.
Yeah,
But I still think
very,
like,
very
yeah, well,
insightful.
it's really hard to figure out.
Yeah,
Only time will tell with Omnath. People have been brewing with it, but it's still a 4-color card in a
sure.
format where there isn't a lot of mana fixing, so
It's
not
not a
100%.
yes. It's
It's
not a
not a
no.
yes, not a no, but I think this is the most interesting of the changes
Mhm.
because it was definitely a push card for when it came out, and now that it's not so push and it's rebalanced, I'm interested to see what this does. This is probably going to end up being like your mid-range staple if the format gets super aggressive.
Omnath has always been like the king of elementals too. So anytime if we get another set that has like a sub theme or a theme of elementals, he could completely change.
Look, between Omnath, Risen Reef, and then basically all the elementals that have MH2, I'm good on the elementals themes for a little bit. They can back off.
Well, I mean, like, oh, do we have the MH2 ones in historic?
No, we don't. I'm just saying in general, elementals have gotten really powerful all of a sudden.
That's what they do though. They have to find something that's like underpowered. Like, look at werewolves now. Werewolves are actually like
Werewolves is
possibly
playable because they nerfed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, like even like I think it'll be playable after one more Innistrad set in Commander or something. Like, they're getting so close. They even turned dogs into wolves too, didn't they?
The
Like,
plight of the werewolf player is that they're always just waiting for another Innistrad set to push them into, wow, this deck's really good.
yeah,
And it's just always just short.
it's like being
so
a Bears fan.
Close. We're not, look, I enjoy the fans that we do have on YouTube, and I'm not trying to alienate anybody. So let's just calm down on the which team is better thing.
I know the feeling. I sympathize with the werewolf players.
It's just like
Just every
this
year,
is gonna be our year.
This is gonna be
this is gonna be our year.
Shit.
That's fair. All right, so this is the entirety of all the rebalance cards, and now I kind of want to move into the new arena, new to arena only digital cards.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna switch over there real quick.
Yeah. So these are gonna be what we think are our top 10 plus one, right?
Yeah, this is 11 because I couldn't decide on what I wanted the other ones to be because these are all some doozies. So we're just gonna work from left to right here. I got them kind of just piled together because it's how arena does it. My honorary mention. Let's do that because I kind of have a 10. I know which one I want to be number one, and I know which one I want to be my honorary mention. In the middle, you guys can figure it out. My honorary mention is Onlore.
Yeah.
I've been playing that Esper Rights deck a lot in historic, and I've been playing with this card, and I'm either lukewarm on it. There are games where it's pretty underwhelming. You play it on 2, and then it just immediately dies, and you feel like an idiot. Or there are the games where you untap with this card, and you just start milling yourself, and then you get to the point where your opponent can't Soul Guide land on you, or you just make a bunch of zombies.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it says whenever they leave the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get to the point where you just keep like shuffling your reanimator targets in and out.
Yeah.
So like you have a target, they kill it, you're like, all right, make a zombie, re-get my target.
I like what these cards do though. Like if they live, they're nuts. But if they die, then you're just like, oh. But it's
I
like
think
you could have played any 2-drop there.
Yeah.
And been like, meh.
I think cards like that are amazing for like standard. Like it has to live to be good. See Baneslayer Angel.
Sure.
I don't know that cards like that will ever be good enough for non-rotating formats.
Oh,
Because
they
standard
are.
is where they can control the ebb and flow of the target removal. So like things that once they live are good. I think that era of Magic, as far as any other format that isn't standard, is long beyond us.
So you're trying to say that infect is no good because they all have to live and they have lots of ways to help them live.
Infect is Infect doesn't exist in Arena, so we're just gonna
Not
leave
an
that where
arena,
it
no,
is.
but I'm just saying. I think we have what snake skin, blossom. Do we have blossoming defense on arena?
I don't know.
No, but the cards like that and Summer's Veil that have come out, like those are the types of cards that have to be played with something that really needs to live.
Yeah.
But it has to be powerful enough to where, you know, if it does live one turn, then it's going to change the game.
See, and I think the only format where that can exist is standard.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so that's my honorable mention.
Yeah.
So from there, we're just gonna work our way from left to right, and we'll start with this little cute guy right here, little doggo, nice pup. This card has been enabling the werewolf decks that we've kind of seen, the ones that you kind of alluded to earlier. Just giving them it's not overpowered. It's a good card as far as it leads into your other plays, and this is like the perfect one drop for standard power level.
Yeah,
you play it. It's not absurd, and it doesn't take over the game on its own. It buffs you into your curve. This is like a good curve filler. It's a great one drop, but it's not absurd. I think this card enables the werewolf decks that we were talking about because they really desperately needed a one drop to be able to play. Yeah. And then this in conjunction with, I think there is a card in Crimson Vow that like has menace, is a one drop, and is actually relevant, and it's triggers off other wolves.
Well, they got the Ascendant Pack Leader. That's what I'm playing a standard.
Yeah, they have Tenacious Pup, Ascendant Pack Leader, and there's a red one drop that also generates wolves.
Oh, okay. So having the 3 is what they needed.
Yeah,
get you. All right.
I've seen a lot of pup, and I've been impressed with it in the sense that like it's not oppressive. It's just a good card.
And who could be angry at that face?
I mean, yeah, look, he's so cute.
You can just tell he's a good boy.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a doggos, and all doggos are good boys. It just doesn't matter. Yeah. This is certainly a furniture chewer, not close. Moving from pup to Everheart Captain. Yeah. This is supposed to be the 2-drop that replaces Luminarch Aspirant.
It's cool.
It's certainly good.
Mm-hmm.
It does. This is like we were talking earlier before the pod. Like this is kind of like an extra Thalia, so I'm on board for that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the card's great. I think this card's going to get a lot of play. Thalia has always got a lot of play. I don't think that 2 power there is going to be the game changer here because this does.
This is essentially just what Thalia. They drew. It has double strike, yeah.
Yeah, it has double strike, and it really only, I guess it really only hits one of their cards, but it also reduces your cards, which is really good.
Well, no, it hits. If they draw multiple cards, it hits all the cards they draw that turn.
That's true, yeah. But I mean, like, if you're sitting there with 6 spells and someone casts a Thalia, it hits all of those, and you're like, oh.
Well, yeah, it's not as good as Thalia. Thalia is really busted.
Thalia can be a time walk against the right day.
I mean, Thalia is a vintage staple.
True. So this will be a nice.
This will not be a vintage staple, but
no. But being played alongside Thalia in Historic, I think could be really powerful.
Yeah, cards like this that track stuff that are hard to track on paper, I think these are great for Arena in the sense that I like this design space. Tracking of things that are harder to track, like same with Ogler, they track via Perpetual, and this doesn't. While it doesn't have Perpetual, it does track and reduce costs. I like cards like this.
Does he got a lobster bib on?
I mean, maybe.
The captain has seen it all, most of it bad. I didn't know we still got flavor text.
Oh yeah, it's just always off the card now.
Yeah.
Solid 2-drop.
Yeah.
That's
The
basically
lobster bib doesn't make it any better or any worse, but it's fun to look at, just like the pup. All right.
yeah. Moving on to Divine Purge. This card feels like it's on the same power level as Anger of the Gods was in Standard. A 3-mana wrath that cleans up the board, and it's not really a wrath per se, because it doesn't actually kill everything. It just basically blanks it out, and they have to recast it.
Yeah.
But you have to cast it with the additional attacks of 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten the chance to play with this card, and this card is a beating against the aggro decks.
So right off the bat, I think about the 1-drop dog from the last set or maybe 2 sets ago. It's in the mono white, but whenever you exile a card, it gets +1/+1 counter.
Stoneminer's familiar.
Yes. So I think that could be really important if they were to play some. I guess it's all cards, right?
It
would just exile itself.
Yeah, it just eats itself.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So,
no, wouldn't really do anything at all then. I just didn't know. It says exile on there though, so usually that there's something to that.
I was looking for, because I know recently they printed a card that made things that were cast, and this was it Rhinebound Sphere maybe. It made things that were cast from not their hand more expensive.
So like double that.
This might apply with that. I'd have to look into that specifically because I haven't had that interaction come up yet. But beyond that, this just being a 3-mana, basically a wrath that resets the board and gives you time to set up for the longer games. This card's been perfect. I've been playing this in a green-white build of a deck that I picked up from Ali Eldrazi, and this card's just a great tempo setter as far as like buying you a bunch of time.
Yeah, and that Anger of Gods did that perfectly in a lot of different situations. So it does. Very reminiscent.
Moving on from Divine Purge, this card. This card's real strong.
Yeah,
real strong. So for those of you that don't know, you get a Blood Artist token. Well, it's not even a token, it's just a Blood Artist. Blood Artist is historically super powerful. And this card, paying you off on blood tokens plus Blood Artist, mixed in with the black strategies that we've already had that were sacrifice based, this card slots super good into those decks.
So whenever you sacrifice a token, it drains.
Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, so you can pick up on some of the blood token theme cards and actually play those together in conjunction with this, and also play the black sacrifice theme that you're playing with like Shambling Ghast and
Meat Hook is just
and Meat Hook is basically a one-sided Blood Artist.
Yeah, so adding these, like giving Meat Hook more ways to be even better, it's like it's already been pretty impressive. So
they've given you enough pieces to make Aristocrats playable again in Standard. And when the Aristocrats deck is good in Standard, Standard is strong.
Yeah, when you rally the ancestors. Or Zulaport Cutthroat maybe or something.
I mean, they have Blood Artist. It's the better Zulaport Cutthroat.
I know, but I mean, just an extra 4 copies.
It's just more Blood Artists.
Yep.
That's what every Blood Artist deck needs, more Blood Artists. I would definitely be on the lookout for this deck, because I think in the coming week or so, we're going to get to the point where this deck is one of the top contenders.
Yeah.
I've been wholly impressed with Single Brushstroke. It's much better than I initially thought, just because of how good Blood Artist is. And this is Blood Artist with upside, because you still get to keep the Blood Artist, you get the enchantment, and then you also get the triggers off the blood tokens themselves, which is going to filter you through your deck faster too. So basically, they gave an Aristocrat style deck a draw engine as well, if you're playing it in conjunction with the blood tokens. If not, it still gives you a blood token.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I guess I didn't realize Blood Artist was in Crimson Vow until just now, but
it's not in Crimson Vow.
Yeah, it was printed in Crimson Vow, wasn't it?
Blood
or
Artist?
They put in those commander deck or something like that. Maybe
it might have been printed in the commander deck, but this is the, I believe, no, Blood Artist is on Arena, but this is
Oh, Jumpstart.
Blood Artist Return to. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yep, that's where it came from. Jumpstart. Okay, but yeah,
Yep.
they just did put it in that the commander deck, the vampire commander deck. Though. That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is a sweet card. I agree.
Eh.
What's next year?
Conductive Current. The old red. This card is pseudo Anger of the Gods. It does cost triple red, which is kind of a barrier, but it also adds damage. And this is kind of the thing that these like big red decks needed.
Yeah.
Right? You have a Wrath that also adds to your clock by just whatever. A Shock now does 4 damage, non-combat damage. This thing, I think this is. It's hard to. I don't want to just keep repeating myself, but this is definitely like the filler piece that a lot of these bigger red decks on Historic needed. I don't know how this plays in Standard just yet, but there are enough burn spells where this might actually be pretty relevant in sorry, I didn't mean Standard, Alchemy. Pretty relevant. The triple red might be an issue, but there's probably a place somewhere where you're playing like a mono red snow deck.
Yeah.
Playing the burn spells, playing Faceless Haven, but you're going bigger, so you can play the control game against these aggro decks, but you could also just start going face with your burn spells via and using Conductive Current to buy you time against these the slower control decks.
No,
because most of the control decks are black-based, like mid-range decks. There really isn't a hard control deck anymore because of the way they nerfed Alberns of Epiphany. Blue-red's still solid, but it's not what it was before because their finisher is Hullbreaker Horror now.
Yeah, which is an awful card.
I mean, it's awful to play against. It's certainly a great card.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying though. But no, I think this could definitely be a piece, and could be one piece closer, maybe not there yet, but yeah, Perpetual is just always right until
yeah, it's always on the card no matter what zone it goes to.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Moving into my pick for my favorite card in the set, not the most powerful, but certainly one of my favorite cards in the set because I'm a big ramp player. I love to play ramp decks, and I got a chance to play with Set of the Wilds earlier this week. Besides the bug, which I'm not 100% sure if they fixed it, but up until the point I had played it, they hadn't fixed it. So if you're not aware, the bug is you play Set of the Wilds, it puts a land into play, and then it puts a land into your hand. But the hand counter doesn't count it as in your hand. It's not a card you can play. It's just your hand looks like it has an extra basic land in it.
Okay.
That's perpetually in your hand. You can't discard it. You can't play it. You can't do anything with it. It's just in your hand.
It just increases your land count for it to go grab a bigger permanent?
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
Settle only counts the land you're in. It literally just gives you see a land card, but the game does not recognize that card is in your hand or that it exists at all.
So does it remove a card from your deck?
No.
Huh. Okay.
When you seek, Settle puts a land from your deck into play.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the way it got programmed in, it also puts a land into your hand that doesn't exist from anywhere.
Oh, it's probably because they just tried to rewrite the cultivate code.
It's possible they could. I don't know. I don't know anything about the programming of it. I just know that there were a couple of times where I was like, "Oh, all right, next turn," because it'll be in your hand and you'll forget about it. And you're like, "All right, well, I know I have my land drop for the next turn," and you go to click it and it just does nothing, and it still keeps doing nothing. You're like, "Oh, shit! It's there, but it's not there."
Well, if you're adding in a new element to a game like this where you would add code, this is almost identical to Cultivate, so it'd be very easy to just take this model, put it over, and switch it out. And they must have forgot one little line.
It's probably what it is, except Cultivate picks 2 lands this seeks. But yeah, so pro tip: when you play Settle, whatever side of your hand, like I don't know if you move cards around in your hand a lot. I do, even on Arena. Move the land to the far left or to the far right. Move it to a zone in your hand where you'll be able to keep track and remember, like these are just not playable. They're actually not there because you can move it around in your hand.
And you can end up with 4. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. At one point, I passed the turn with a 9-card hand, but the game recognized it as 7 cards. So like for 30 seconds, between passing from second main to end step, I was trying to figure out what I was going to have to discard. And I was like, oh, I still have 7 cards of mana. I'm fine.
Did your opponent see 7 or 9?
No, your opponent sees your hand as normal.
Okay, all right.
You're the only one that sees this bug. This is only there to trip you up.
That's
now,
funny.
Aside from the bug, Set of the Wilds is really powerful. Hitting that land drop and then going to get a 4-drop out of your deck, especially if you build your deck in a manner where you know this is only going to be one of like 2 cards.
Yeah,
is really powerful. I watched Ali Eldrazi play a green-white ramp deck that was using Divine Purge, Set of the Wilds, and a card we'll talk about later in Key of the Archive. He was using this to either get Key of the Archive or Summoning Circle. Or, Teleportation Circle.
Yeah.
And setting your deck up to know that, look, I'm going to have one of these 2 cards on my turn 4 reduces that variance that's built in through Seek. And it has been wholly impressive with me. I think this is probably one of the best ramp spells they've printed in a long time. Yeah. Because it's not just ramp, it is also getting you a non-land card, which gives you more play. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like 2 for 1 right off the bat. So
it's a 2 for 1 off the bat. And what if the only 4-drop in your deck is, a
combo piece?
Key, or a permanent piece, or a Planeswalker.
Sure.
Like a 4-drop Planeswalker. I've been impressed with the way Settle plays out. You don't know which land you're getting, but that really doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just the fact that it's a 3 mana 2 for 1, and you're always going to hit on your 4-drop. It's not just going to be a blank.
Yeah, or if you're trying to ramp like really hard, you can put another like explosive vegetation as your only 4-drop, so you're always ramping into a ramp spell.
It only gets permanents.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right.
So you'd have to find something that went and got a land, like what's the green white dude that you go get to a plains and a forest?
Yasharn. Yeah,
he's 4 mana, isn't he?
Yep, you can cast this into Yasharn, hit Yasharn, and just make sure you hit your land drop all the way up the curve.
Yeah, guarantee 6 lands.
Yep. That was actually a 1-of in that deck I played.
That's a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting close here on some of our times, so let's I know we want to talk about that last one quite a bit because that's pretty powerful. So what do we have here on that Inquisitor?
Okay, so quick touch. This is if you build your deck correctly with 3 drops or less, this is Collected Company, only it always gives you a 3-drop and it always puts another creature into play. Highly recommend starting this in the green white aggro decks. Very impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good card.
Rapid fire then. Next one, Town Razor Tyrant. Enchant a land. This is basically just extra damage, and it's also a sort of Ponza target, in that this will buy you time, and it puts your opponent on a bad decision, which normally in the decision chain, you like don't want to give your opponent any options, but this one gives them a very bad line where it's like, you can either lose tempo and not be able to keep it with my red deck, or you can take damage and still not be able to keep it with my red deck. I've been impressed with the way Town Razor Tyrant plays out, and this also being a dragon plays into the sub theme of dragons that we've had over the last few sets. I've seen a lot of good from this card, and I'm pretty impressed with where it's going right now.
Yeah, no, and depending on the format, that could be great. We've seen like Field of the Dead formats where you need to be able to remove.
Yeah, being able to blow the lands. I mean, this hits Face of Savin.
Yeah, yep, that's true.
And speaking of aggressive 4-drops, this has been one of the more impressive cards I've seen out of the mono green aggro decks, because it's something you can hide on turn 2 and continually play your game like you normally would, and then just out of left field, kill your opponent.
It's haste. Yeah, what the?
Trample and haste. You just leave it.
Yeah.
Until you just, Kamehameha your opponent with the biggest green dog you can.
So doing it completely fair would be 4 turns, and it'd be an 8/8 trample haste.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Nope.
Yeah,
seems.
And generally just set and let it go for forever.
Seems like a wolf that paper Magic players have been waiting for.
Yeah.
Just straight stolen from commander players.
Yeah, just. Well, I mean, yeah, it's true. And then put it together. It's just like, all right,
It wasn't bad enough.
maybe next set's our set. All right, man. Maybe next set's the set.
They better make it better. Better foretell for 5.
And we're gonna move into from this.
Yeah.
We're gonna move into my pick for best card from new arena cards. Key to the Archive.
Is it a card?
No, it's like 10. So we're gonna go through the spell book, and we're gonna start with Approach of the Second Sun. So I don't know
what's
if
a spell book first, because I just found out today, so people might not know.
So there are a series of cards that came in Arena that either draft or get a random card from a spell book. And a spell book is a collection of 10 to 15 cards that have been handpicked to work with that card in general. So like there's a witch one, and then everything in that spell book is witch themed. There's a spider Ishkana spellbook, and everything in that is spider themed.
And they're bound to one another. Like whatever that card is, that's always the same spellbook.
Correct. It's one of those 15 cards or whatever.
Cool.
This is by far the best spellbook out of all of them, and it's not close. Like most of the other ones, it looks like most of their spellbooks are all limited cards. A couple of them like play together. Like one has cat and oven in the spellbook. But this spellbook, and we're going to go through here in a second, is a lot of the cards that were archive cards in Strixhaven.
Yeah, which were already pretty good cards. Just
back. So we're going to start with Approach. Everybody knows what Approach does. Gain 7 cards down. You cast it again. You win the game.
Yeah. For those that can't see, just on the podcast listening, Approach Second Sun is up here on the screen next to the key to Archive.
Okay. And then we're just going to go through this real quick, because everybody, when I read off these cards, you're going to know what they are, because they're some of the most powerful spells we've seen in forever. So we start with Approach, move into Day of Judgment. Here's a little Wrath of God for you. Into Time Warp, banned in Historic, legal kind of in Standard Time Warp.
Well, is it kind of legal and historic now too? Is it still in the spellbook?
It's still in the spellbook and historic, but you can't. I mean, it's banned. Time Warp itself is banned in historic. Yeah, you can't put Time Warp in your deck, but you can cast Time Warp still via Key to the Archive. Yeah,
great.
Then Counterspell, Demonic Tutor.
Yep, heard of that one.
Doomblade, Lightning Bolt, Claim the Firstborn, Croson Grip, Regrowth, Despark, Electrolyze, Growth Spiral, Lightning Helix, and Putrefy. I've had the chance to play with Key to the Archive in a green-white kind of controlling blink deck where you use Key to the Archive and you use Teleportation Circle like I alluded to earlier, and you just keep blinking this every turn, and you set up turns where like you Time Warp and then regrowth the Time Warp and cast Time Warp again. Or you Approach and then you Demonic Tutor for the Approach back.
Yeah. So what things can't these 15 cards do? They can destroy a permanent, they can counterspell, they can tutor, they can regrow.
Keep in mind, when you draft, you don't see all 15. They only show you 3 random cards out of the draft.
Huh. Okay.
So it's similar to the Discover mechanic from Hearthstone.
I'm familiar. Sorry.
Okay, so the same thing. It shows you any 3 random cards out of the spellbook. So anytime the spellbook ability triggers on this, you are 20% to find the card you want, because it shows you 3 out of 15.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Right. But if you're continually blinking it via circle or just gaining value by bouncing it or something like that, you're gonna keep going through the spellbook.
And there's not a bad one in there either. Like maybe
there really isn't. Like if the worst 3 you see are like Croson Grip, Claim the Firstborn, and I don't know,
Doomblade, yeah,
Despark. Like there's still versatile spells, and if you don't want to discard a card from your hand because you didn't get the one you want, you can just take one of the ones you got and discard it.
Yeah.
So like, because your draft pick goes in your hand, you just pitch it after that.
This card's great.
This card is super good. I mean, I got to live the dream where you like set up a bunch of time warp turns because of time warp regrowth, and then because of teleportation circle. If you keep blinking this, you can eventually get to the point where you can stack up a bunch of turns.
Okay, one question about the whole thing in general, Alchemy. Now that I've seen some of these crazy awesome cards, Magic has been driven by Commander, EDH, whatever, for quite some time now, to where they are the majority and they are the people who purchase more products, especially sealed, and that's what Wizards wants. How long do you think they're going to make these really awesome cards and upset all the Commander and EDH players that can't play them unless they play Brawl, which really isn't the same, before they start printing some of these in like supplemental sets?
Well, most of these arena only cards can't be printed in some supplemental sets. There are some that can be, like some of these can be worded to work in supplemental stuff. But I feel like
So the search thing or whatever that was, like where you don't search your library, it just goes and finds it random. Seek, yeah. So
yeah,
that would be very difficult. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, some of these are designed in that way, but there are also ones that like Lupin Harbingers, for example, right here.
Yeah,
you can track the number of turns. This is possible to play in paper. It's just it's just an added tracking that you shouldn't have to do. But this is, if you wanted to play this card in paper, if it existed in paper, you could definitely track the number of turns.
And less competitive formats, they kind of enjoy that. That's what, there's multiple dice all over, and they want to use them.
Yeah. As far as these coming to Commander, I don't know. I think we're at a point where competitive Magic is going to exist mostly on Arena, in Alchemy, and Historic.
Sure.
I don't know what that means for paper in general. I'm not a paper doomer. I think that there's still going to be space to play live paper events. Pioneer is getting super popular. We just need to get to that point where everybody can show up to start playing Magic tournaments again.
Modern too. Modern's
huge.
Packed. Yeah. Well, and locally, one of our stores, they same Friday night. They don't do standard Friday nights. They do Modern EDH, and the entire store is packed every Friday.
Yeah, and now I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here. So I think that Alchemy will put the last nail in the coffin of an already dying format that was paper standard. A lot of stores, and this isn't just local to me, a lot of stores have standard on Friday nights or whatever night, and they can barely get them to fire. Meanwhile, they've got 30, 40 people showing up for Modern. They have infinite players showing up for Commander, because that Commander is what's keeping Magic alive.
Yeah.
Commander is what kept Magic alive through the pandemic as far as paper cards go.
Oh, for actually quite before it was even a format. Like, it was just
I understand.
Fun to play.
Casual Magic fuels sales, not competitive Magic.
Yeah, and that's why they can. I don't think they can ever get rid of paper, especially because they're
never going to get rid of paper.
They've not found a way to make enough money off of Arena to even touch the amount of product they move in paper.
I mean, look at the predatory Arena economy. But that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
As far as them printing cards that Commander players are getting annoyed about, I mean, hasn't it been the inverse the entire time, where like constructed players have been seeing cards that they wanted to play in Commander in constructed decks, but they couldn't unless they were playing Legacy?
Well, that's why you just play Legacy. But
yeah.
But no,
that's why you just buy a Ferrari.
But so it was different though. So it was format defined, like they were specific to the format, but they weren't specific to the platform in which the game is played via digital or real life, and I think that's the biggest difference, is that you can't, like, I could have went and got some of those Commander decks, and I could have played Commander if I wanted to play that card, or I could have played Legacy if I put it in there. Sure, I can't play it in Modern or Standard, but I can still play it the same way. This is telling me I can't play it the way I like to play my game, which is with paper cards.
I do see and feel that split. Like, I don't know what this means, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I
I-
don't know how this plays out further down the road.
Like, I
Like
still don't. Sorry, go ahead.
it's like if Alchemy replaces Standard, which it's looking like it's going to, what happens to paper Standard cards as far as Eternal formats go? So you're gonna get this like split where there will be cards that exist in Standard that port into Modern that will not exist in the digital space unless they are nerfed. See, like Alrund's Epiphany. So Alrund's Epiphany exists in its printed form in Modern, but it does not exist in that form on Arena.
So from a business standpoint, that would be cannibalizing their own product, and no one does that. That's
I
no,
don't know if
unless
it is cannibalizing their own product because the
deleting
Standard's already
Standard,
basically
but
dead.
they still need to make the cards though for all the other formats. New cards have to come out, and they can't just put out
Yeah,
Modern Horizons 3, Modern Horizons 4, Modern
those
like
cards are still going to exist because they're going to be bought.
why do they exist? Modern players don't buy sealed product. They buy single cards when people crack boxes. People have been cracking less and less. Like, there's no mass box openings. Very few stores still do like the really big ones. They happen, but not like they used to. The only reason they're cracked is for limited too. Like, I guess if we have limited, then you still have everybody playing limited and draft. Like,
I honestly couldn't tell you where it goes. I don't know. I'm sure Wizards has a plan. There's no way they're just going to abandon.
I disagree. I don't think they've had a plan for half of their career.
Oh no, none of their
kidding.
plans have looked logical for the last 6 years.
Yeah,
because it feels like between MTGO, Arena, and Paper Magic, it feels like it's 3 distinct platforms, and nobody in Wizards is communicating with the other people that run those platforms. See your game day, the game day thing that we just had, the Store Champs, and the Arena Open, and the Pro Tour, essentially, or whatever it's called, it's not Pro Tour anymore. We're all in the same weekend. They're all in the same Saturday. That tells me that no one, because you're pulling players. There's only so many players that can play in the draft open on Arena and also play in the Store Championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only like a handful of them out there that have that time to go forward.
See,
so that means that they aren't coordinating with the other groups.
Well, I thought they were doing that to try to get some data on what was more beneficial for them. And now they're getting rid of like what simplified Chinese in certain draft boxes.
Well, they are getting rid of draft stuff in it's simplified Chinese and Korean, I think.
Probably, but just stuff like that. And there's other reasons too that I've heard of why they might be doing that. But
more tinfoil hat stuff, but
yeah, well, so from the business standpoint, as I'm in marketing and I do a lot of executive level kind of decision making, when you give people too many choices, they actually purchase less of your product. So
decision paralysis.
Yeah, so like Doritos, they like to put out a new chip every once in a while and let people vote on which flavor is cool. But Doritos has like 4 flavors, and they always have, and they'll keep it that way because they know people will purchase more of the product. When I have 6 different versions of the same card that come in 4 different boxes, and I have no idea even where to get them at this point, I just pick one and hope it's in there. You are just asking for people not to buy any of your stuff because you've put a barrier and made it too confusing and hard. I don't have the time to put in like you do when you're developing the game. I just want to know that I like my cards and I can get them out of this box, or they're out of this one. Give me 2 choices.
I do fully agree with you that they have printed far too much product in the last few years, that it's really difficult for players to keep up. And now that, and in conjunction with like on Arena, they've added more mythics. So the mythic pool is bigger. And now a month after a set comes out, there's going to be more rares and mythics to collect. Like,
yeah, well,
it's getting to the point where the market is oversaturated. You can't really pick one thing or the other because there's too much going on.
And they've added alchemy now, new cards, the old cards that are different cards. You're just confusing people on purpose for no reason. Honestly,
Instead of, yeah, it would be
I don't-
nice if they took a step back and went, look, we've got, you can't keep straining your player base like this. And they have been milking this cow for far too long.
This is Sparta!
One, if you change cards that already exist, give your players wild cards. It's the least you can do.
Sure.
Two, I'm excited about Alchemy. I like the idea of keeping a format fresh and fixing problems. Now, how they implement that could be an issue. If they don't, if they overcorrect, or if they put out a bunch of stuff that is like, we'll fix it in post, that's going to be pretty bad, because you're going to get a month of absolutely busted cards that people want to play with, and then they're going to go through and nerf. So you'll get this player base. So your player base will start taking up start noticing the pattern where, like, why buy in to standard of the get-go when in a month everything's going to change?
You remember they like just stopped doing this when they had a ban announcement weekly for a while,
Yeah.
and now they stopped,
So-
and now they're saying, well, we're going to do that again, but just in a different format. Like,
And with the way the arena economy is, people cannot afford to buy into a deck, play that deck for like a week, 2 weeks, or even a month, and then watch Wizards turn around and nuke it from orbit and then start over.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it. It's already absurdly expensive to buy into arena because the arena economy is super predatory. If they start doing this, you're going to lose a large chunk of your player base to games where they can play anything they want for super cheap. See Legends of Runeterra and Hearthstone for that matter.
well,
Like-
gaming in general. Imagine getting a DLC and then someone calling you a week later and saying we deleted your DLC.
Imagine it's more like, imagine working a character up, and I'm going to use the RPG reference. Imagine working your character up to the top level and then them coming out a week after you got to that point, and you're like, by the way, your character's entirely nerfed, but hey, you can just rebuild and start from the bottom up.
That
And
almost
don't
killed-
worry, by the time you get to the top, we definitely might change something in that character too if it gets too good.
So like
So,
a
like-
decade or more ago, that almost happened in WoW, where people were like killing people's characters, and they were actually like killing them, and it took like so long to build them up.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Like they had to make some serious changes at the company because they were like, we're losing players. These players just spent a year building this character, and that guy just walked up and killed him.
Well, you're talking. Well, WoW, you can. We're not getting into the logistics of
This-
WoW.
Yeah.
But
This is a long time
it's-
ago, though.
It's definitely something that I hope Wizards considers. Like we said last week, cautiously optimistic about Alchemy. I like some of the ideas where they're going. Some of the cards that they printed definitely don't feel like they should have been made, but it was just, we want to push this digital only set. So we're going to make a bunch of cards that can only exist in digital only, but a lot of them failed to execute, and a lot of them feel ham-fisted. Some of these cards, like the ones you see on the screen right now, feel good.
Yeah.
If you can get more of this and less of, I can't even remember the name of it, and I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, they don't
It's
all
like-
have to be great though either. You know, we've never had.
No, they don't have to be great, but they don't have to be Grizzle Huntmaster, which is just a wall of text on a card that is convoluted and difficult to grok. A lot of people, when this card first came out, read it wrong like 6 times before they realized what it did. You don't need these designs like this. You still need elegant,
Lich,
simple to understand magic cards.
illusionary mask.
Yes, Ice Cauldron.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
Less of designs like this, more of designs like Settle and Lupin Harbingers and Inquisitor Captain. Those cards are good. They
Hmm.
feel like magic cards.
Is that a
to
new
a certain
Ishkana?
extent.
There's a
Yes,
new
this is
Ishkana.
the
Okay.
Ishkana I was telling you about, whose spellbook contains hits as Twin Silk Spider
Huh.
and
Yeah, that's
Drider and Broodweaver. And this is what most of the spellbooks look like. Just a bunch of nonsensical cards that don't really play on anything other than they're themed. This is the only spellbook that is just like, oh, this one looks sweet. So more spellbooks like this, less spellbooks like this.
Yeah, well, it is called Key to the Archive. If you have the key to the archive, it's got to be something good in there, right?
Well, they could have come up with better spider themed stuff than this. This feels like a bunch of draft commons.
I think it is. And then Prey Upon. It's like,
and then Prey Upon, because they did a search, they ran out of spiders, so they just picked Prey Upon.
yeah, they could have done better there. You know, like maybe some Jund cards. Escanos played in Jund for a while, pretty good. Well, yeah. Okay, so we've definitely probably gone over our time here. We should cut this, and I'm sure I definitely know I went off on random.
In the words of wizards, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine with them fixing it in post. Just stop taking my money and then fixing it. Fix it, then ask me if I want to give you money. All right. You have anything else?
No, that does it for me, man.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here today. Thank you for, if you made it to the end, listening to this random rant here at the end, but hopefully it was enjoyable for you as it was for us. You know, get to debate some things. We will see you next week the same time, and if you please remember to like, share, and subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated.
Like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know how terrible I sound.
Yeah, comment. Actually, just negative comments at Walsh. Let's see how many negative comments. No, I'm sorry, we won't do that.
Bring it, why not? I can easily just turn that comment section off and not care.
Okay, true. But maybe every
we
3 or 4.
happily welcome your constructive criticism.
Yeah, if you think I'm fat, tell me.
You have a face built for podcasts.
So true. Or is it? No. All right, I'm getting out of here. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Take it easy.